Welcome to Resourced and Resourceful Leadership, a podcast for people who care about the world and their impact in it. I'm your host, Dr. Christine Pettit. Thank you for listening to today's episode, which is a conversation with Helen Chin. Helen is a movement facilitator and liberatory coach. I'm so lucky to have her as a friend and colleague. Helen, I hope you don't mind that I named this podcast episode after your business, Sacred Tune-Up. Some conversations leave you better, and this was one of those for me. So I thought Sacred Tune-Up was only appropriate. In this episode, you'll hear more about Helen's work, and we also share remembrances of our friend and colleague, Laurie Jones Neighbors. I love that Laurie was so present in this conversation and to know how she continues to shape our lives and the lives of those we work with. Helen, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and having this conversation with me. I'm so excited to talk with you today.
Oh, I'm so honored to be invited, and I'm so excited to talk to you today too, Christine.
Awesome. Well, how are you coming into our conversation today?
I'm coming in, with a lot of excitement, of course. I'm also coming in with, I'm just marveling at our connections over time, how we come together, how we continue to be in each other's orbits and constellation. And so that's how I'm coming in, just marveling and in awe of like how things happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really appreciative of our connection as well. And I just feel like every time I get to connect with you, it's so rich and meaningful and also fun. And there's this bringing of lightness while also holding the heaviness of our lives, of the world, of these times. So I really appreciate that about
Yeah.
you and our conversations and connection.
Me too. Mm.
So I know we have a special connection through Laurie, even though we didn't meet with her in that space. We actually met in at her memorial,
Yeah.
and I've talked with her or talked about her on this podcast. We were connected before too, but didn't really make the connection
Right.
through that. But yeah, I'm wondering if you can share a little bit about Laurie and, just our meeting as well, but anything that's coming up for you there.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing Lori into this space. I think about her very often. And I met Lori as part of the Liberty Hill Foundation Commissions Training Program. And I remember, I was a participant and I was learning a lot about, what are commissions and boards and what is their role and power in being able to shift policy at a local level. And I remember being very taken by Lori's spirit. That's what I remember. And she was just so keen and she like paid such close detail and attention to like each participant. And it's like the more you invested in participating, the more you received out of it. And it's like, I feel like that really speaks to how Lori shows up. Like she wants you here and she wants you to be with her doing the work. And and only if you want to. It was always at choice. And so I kept in touch with her after the program. And yeah, because I did in 2019. The pandemic soon started thereafter.
Mhm.
And I remember just checking with her every once in a while to see how things are and, how we were both holding the world falling apart. We were both dreaming about, like, oh man, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could work with people who are doing excellent work and get paid thriving wages? Really be in the practice of, like, what we're not used to in the workplaces that we may have come from. And so toward the end of 2022, she was like, Helen, I know you were complaining about your job. Would you like to do some consulting with me just to see what it's about? Just to do a few hours. And I was like, wow. So I personally saw Lori as a mentor. I'm not sure she was necessarily mentoring me in her mind. However, I really looked to her like in how she lived her life, how she was so bright. And she also held a lot of complexity in her life too. And how she was still able to find all the beauty and goodness and like pay attention to what was so delightful still. And she let her curiosity guide her. And I felt like that was such a wonderful thing about her. And after she invited me to work with her on a few projects, she like suddenly passes away. And it was such a shocking and deep sadness for all of us, for those of us who know her. And I think about her spirit often because the work she invited me to participate in, she had already started to like bring together a team and I was like on the verge of meeting folks. And at the end of 2022 and beginning of 2023, the folks she had gathered, these other consultants who I'd never met before, were like, "Are we going to carry for this work forward? Because Lori gathered us and we committed, we signed some contracts to get some work done." And it was really from there that like I started working with cities and people. And it was on that journey and this relationship of like, oh, I'm consulting now. And I am my 9 to 5. So I was like figuring all that out. And then it was June next year in 2023 that you and I met Christine at her memorial. And it was such in Lori fashion. It was in San Francisco at the back of a bar. Folks like read poetry and sang songs, and folks got up and like shared their words in memory of Lori. And it was just so like it was precisely what it was, and there's a lot of sadness, but there's also so much like it was truly memorializing her and like how she touched all our lives. And it was really moving. And I remember you got up there, Christine, and I was like, you were so familiar. And it was because we were on the community funding board together at Liberty Hill. And you shared some words. And I remember I think you brought it up in a podcast too, where you're like, I don't typically like working with consultants. And here I am, a consultant in front of all these consultants. And you shared how Lori touched your life. And I remember it was really memorable to me what you shared. And so afterwards, we exchanged our contact information. And, you live in Long Beach and then I live in LA. And so we like we were intentional about staying in touch. And then here we are. And over time, we've like gotten a chance to spend time together in nature. We have some parallelness in like trying to figure out our own consulting businesses or how we want to be when we're working. And I learned a lot from you over how you like really stepped into it fully. And we talk often about Lori and how like she helped us to really planted a lot of seeds for us to contemplate on and how we want to be when we go out into the world and partner and support people in consulting and coaching. And we have an opportunity now where we get to still work together in like a working partnership in addition to our friendship. So it's been really special. And yeah, it's been several years and I'll stop here. Yeah, that's been
Mm,
kind of the journey and like relationship with meeting Lori and then meeting you.
yeah, I'm having like a little tear coming here. But it's like really a tear of gratitude. I mean, it's a tear of I'm still so sad that she's not here physically and like I'm so grateful that she is present in our lives, in our work, in our relationships. And so I'm just really grateful for her and, just the connection that like we kind of can keep her spirit alive too in the work that we do and in our relationship. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, what would Lori say right now, hearing us bring her into this space?
I feel like she would be like, okay, move on. I
Yeah, I
mean,
can
I
see
feel
that.
like she would be like, I don't know, like bring some humor to the situation, I guess is what I mean. Yeah.
Yes, I could see her laughing at us, but not
Yeah.
like in a she would be laughing with us, and
Yeah.
then, like, poking fun,
Yeah.
and then also with her big smile and maybe in, like, a really proud feeling. Yeah.
Love that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've really appreciated the way that we've like that you were up for like walking meetings with me and we've kind of met like halfway or you've come this way or
Yes.
vice versa,
Mhm.
to meet up and like explore different places to walk together and talk
Yes.
together. So, um, nature and movement are things that are really important to me. So it's been nice to get to know you better in those settings as well.
Yeah, and I know we have shared connection with also our mindfulness practices
Mm-hmm.
too. That feels really special. So, yeah, it's lovely to meet at these sort of shared places of connection.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really cool. I remember one of our walks, and I think you already had plans to go to Deer Park. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's like my home away from home. It's one of my
Yes.
favorite places, Deer Park Monastery." Um, and yeah, pulling in those mindfulness practices too, and even that physical place.
Yep. Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And then the another connection is our coaching journey and you going through coaching for healing, justice, and liberation, which was founded by the two teachers that I got my coach training from too. So I would love
Yes.
to hear a little bit about what inspired you to, go through a coaching program and kind of what you got from that experience and your coaching now.
Yeah. What inspired me was, and I think it's part of what am I doing with myself now that I'm a consultant? Because I quit my 9 to 5, yeah, in the middle of 2023. So summer 2023. And I was like, all right, the world is before me. And what has been such a wonderful thing that I have come across, a learning, is this beautiful and generous consultant community. I mean, I don't know if it's all consultant communities, but it's certainly the one that I feel like I find both of us in. And in this community, folks are just like, sharing, like, hey, this is an opportunity you can try out, or this is this other thing. And so, coaching for healing, justice, and liberation came up as one of the coaching avenues. And I think you and I had already started talking about what you were doing with consulting and coaching. So, a seed had already been planted that coaching is something that folks do along with consulting. And I still really didn't have a clue about what it is, to be honest. Um, and I knew that I wanted to build a skill set that can support people. I believe you shared on your podcast too that the consulting work we do is in service of others, in service of others for collective liberation, freedom, and really for the benefit of all, the collective. And there's something in particular about this focus for me that if I'm going to do this consulting work, I'm going to do it. I'm going to apply my skills, I'm going to apply my interest, my expertise in service of in service. So coaching was one of those avenues, and coaching for healing, justice, and liberation felt like in such alignment. Our coaching teachers, Damon Azali Rojas and Sarah Joade, really teach from this place of they're both movement organizers and they teach coaching skills from a place of coaching is an approach to healing, to justice, to liberation. And going in, it was a 9-month program. Going in, you do learn coaching skills. You're also learning in community. And there's an intention around a lot of internal introspection and reflection to know why you're here, the work you're doing, what you're willing to shed, what you're willing to unlearn, and and with a clear eye to the fact that we are living under this capitalistic system, this imperialistic system, under systems of oppression. And these are the communities we're working with when we're consulting. So, how are you going to show up in these spaces? So, the journey itself through the coaching program, I did learn some coaching skills, but I feel like I actually got turned inside out in the best way possible. Like, I experienced a lot of healing and transformation going through the coaching program. And I feel like that embodied experience actually then makes sense to apply the coaching skills. Like, now that I'm going to coach others, having experienced the being witnessed, being held, also being trusted and being given choice about how I want to move through the coaching space, that helped me to apply the coaching skills to coaching. So coaching now is such a joy and a pleasure to support people in. Sometimes I still question, like, what is coaching actually? Because sometimes people come with a very specific question. Can you help me? Like, what do I want to do next? Can you help me with my resume? And I don't actually see that my role is that. I'm actually supporting folks in figuring out who they are, who their self is, their high self, what their values are, what their needs are, and helping them uncover ways that they want to go to get there. And that's been such a pleasure and an honor to do when folks share their most intimate questions with you and share a lot of vulnerabilities. And then after a session, they're like, oh, I feel better. And I'm not quite sure why, but I feel so much more enlightened. And now I want to take action based on what I heard myself say.
Mhm.
That's kind of been the coaching journey, and, I really see it as I'm gonna continue to grow my skills and continue to practice, and yeah, it's it's hard to put into words sometimes, like, what coaching can feel like. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I can relate to that. I know I've shared with you like that me going through the program, going through the coach training, because in it you get so much coaching. It's so much practice of coaching, and
Yes.
you work with your coach partners and like exchange, and you work with the coach and you do mentorship coaching. It's like
Yep.
you're so steeped in it that you can't help but be transformed by it. You and also I think Sarah and Damon are so intentional in their approach around it that they create such a healing container and transformational container as well as everyone who shows up to be part of it. It's like,
Yep.
the people in the
Yep.
room or on the Zoom or whatever, like people are attracted to this because they're down for it,
Yep.
and they
Yep.
can hold and be held. And so it was like when I went through it, it was at a critical point for me where I was on the cusp. Like I knew I was already starting to plant seeds for my transition out of an executive director position at a nonprofit.
Mhm.
And so I was already doing like some succession planning and stuff like that. But it was a tough time. And I was a new-ish mom. I had a toddler running this organization. It was
A lot.
challenging. And so I'm like so glad that I had that space to be in. I got some really impactful coaching from Sarah at a just critical time. And it helped me
Yeah.
realize how I was showing up as a leader was very like my protectors, I had a guard way up. And that
Mm.
was not serving me or the people that I was working with. And so it really helped me transition out of that organization with grace. And also I was we transitioned from being an in-person cohort to all online because it was during the pandemic. So it was also like that critical moment
Yep.
in time for me too. And oh my gosh, the way they made that transition from our in-person to online was just brilliant. But yeah, that time was really impactful for me too. So I'm pretty sure I told you when you were starting out, I'm like, okay, you're gonna go in and yeah, you'll learn some coaching skills, but it's also like just very life changing too.
Very life changing. And just to hear your example, like how powerful is that, right? Like the powerful coaching that you received from Sada and like how that then you as having received that and how you made decisions in your life as a result of it, and then how you're also able to support others with your coaching skills in this way. This is also making me think about the program as a whole. It is, yes, it's coaching. It is also so much more, right? It feels like you can infuse the container with spirit, ancestors, and descendants. So it's
Mm,
much bigger than the human timeline in a way. And when you are able to have conversation or operate within that space, you just have so much more space to explore and play and consider and access s- access locations of wisdom that maybe you didn't know existed. So just to
mm,
say that, wow, they're geniuses. They really listen to spirit and connected deeply with their ancestral assignment
mm.
and brought this to life as a in service to the world, to others. Like I still get so much out of it every day. Yeah.
That's awesome. I think just hearing you talk, spirit was just a tiny part of the experience when I went through the coaching program because they were still in this other framework and it was evolving. And I'm
Right.
just curious to hear from you, like, what is that role for you of
Yes.
spirit, maybe even the mindfulness, just what is that for you and the connection to coaching?
Yeah, spirit. It was really very special that spirit could be part of coaching training, right? Like real world application, because I think for me, I think throughout life, I think living on a total island, living on this land in this society, you do have to compartmentalize yourself. You're like, this is my mindfulness spiritual practice that I do maybe silently or privately. This is what I do at work. This is how I show up for my family. This is what I do here for myself. And to see that spirit can be part of the coaching container or how we coach with others and how we're able to name it, should it be there? I'm not inserting this if the coach partner isn't interested in it. But should a coach partner bring up, like, oh, this is really meaningful to me. Like, I hold my grandmother in my heart often, it's an indicator to me that like that's an important aspect or quality that propels them, that motivates them, that enlivens them. And that is a something I'll remember to ask about and maybe inquire and let curiosity deepen that because it supports the individual in remaining in their highest self. And so it was really beautiful to know that spirit to be able to practice and kind of also bring a reconnection back to spirit for me. Because, yes, in workplaces, I've typically had to be like, this is my work self. And any of all that kind of stuff. First of all, what is that? So it is really incredible. It feels like resistance to practice a relational worldview rather than a linear one where we just follow written word. And so people come from all walks of life. They all have different spiritual or religious or ancestral practices that also inform how they want to show up as leaders. And so the ability to name that and also have the coach partner choose that is something they want to bring in is really powerful. And then it can actually change the space of the conversation because now it's no longer about like how am I going to work with my colleague who annoys me? But it's more like, oh, what is legacy I want to leave behind? Like, what did my foremothers who've come before me, what have they left me? What is my inheritance that can inform how I want to show up in my workplace? And so it
Mm,
becomes such a more spacious consideration and imagination than, oh, I just want to get along with my colleague. So if that can support folks in animating how they want to show up in self leadership, like let's bring that in. And that feels really special. And mindfulness is connected because for me, when I sit down in mindfulness, in meditation, it is like strengthening that connection to spirit, whatever it is for me, if it's source, if it's the universe, if it's the earth, if it's the sky, it could be all these things. And it
mhm,
helps to bring perspective to what I'm going through. Like it reminds me, oh, I'm just a speck in the bigger picture. I'm not an insignificant speck, but I'm a speck in that. Oh my gosh, look at the mountains, the trees and the land that's already here before I even came around. And look at all the millions of people, billions of people across the world who are also living their lives. So it brings perspective. It also helps to like ground me. Sometimes I'll bring a mindfulness practice into the coaching container if it can support the coach partner to kind of
mhm,
transition from where they were before they came into our session together. Uh, uh, and if it's something if it's a tool that's useful to them, I will more than happily share with them what it is that we tried on together. So yeah, I love that these tools are much more than just how to be an effective leader for your team. So that's been
mhm,
really beautiful and expansive.
mhm. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I love that connection between spirit and self leadership, how you want to show up. That was a huge part for me is those qualities of self-leadership, and there's something that I infuse beyond my coaching. Part of it's, like, how I wanna show up, but it's like, how do I wanna
Right.
show up as a parent? How do
Yep.
I wanna show up in this conversation, in this facilitation? And it's something that I regularly bring to others, even if it's, like, a facilitation context where they wouldn't expect it,
Yep.
a conflict mediation, and I'm like, "Look at these qualities, choose 1 or 2 that you would like to bring in."
Yep.
But then there's, like, this deeper work that you're talking about too of, like, where does that come like, your values,
Yeah. Yep.
like, what you value, and I think, yeah, so often when we think about this kind of box of leadership, it's like, "Oh, this is how you're supposed to show up as a leader. This is what it means to
Yep.
lead." And you're like,
Yep.
"No, you get to actually define that, and you get to pull in from, your ancestors or your values, like,
Mhm.
and really infuse that kind of uniqueness too, like your unique story into
Yes.
your leadership."
Yes. I completely agree. And through coaching, I feel folks get to uncover that, right? Like, what have we been performing or masking because we've been shaped and conditioned to show up this way in the box of how leaders show up? And in coaching, you get to uncover some of that. You get to ask questions about, like, well, who told you that? Where did you come? How did that idea come to be? How do you want to do it? How do you want to relate to the folks in your life? And in that process, too, I find folks, what's really beautiful and like alchemical is like returning to self because underneath all of the shaping and performing is the true beautiful heart at the center that does want to be out here, and the courage and the curiosity it takes to find that, and then also to be like, I'm going to express that. That's how I'm going to show up in my workplace, in as a parent, as a leader in my community, is like It's incredible because now there's a feeling of alignment inside. Oh, who you really are, how you wanna be, and actually what you're doing, and yeah, and I think supporting folks in getting below the surface and all the layers in a gentle way can be really I think when we say powerful, it means, like, we're talking about coming back to yourself and who you wanna be, and that's the most powerful thing.
Mhm. Absolutely. And when I asked you or invited you onto this podcast, you wrote back and you were like, "Oh, yes." You were excited because you had just spent a week in Half Moon Bay facilitating as part of a environmental leadership fellowship, and you
Yeah.
were just yeah, like, basking in that space, and then you said in the intake form for this podcast, you were excited to talk about the magic and alchemy and coaching and consulting and life that can happen when we ask powerful questions, practice trust, and share vulnerably. So, I'm just wondering if you wanna share any more about that, the questions, the spaces that you get to help create as a coach and consultant.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that memory of Half Moon Bay, and I was like, "Oh, I must have written that it was really special," or the energy of it came
Yes,
through.
you did, yeah.
So I one of the projects I get to work on is with the Liberty Hill Foundation, and it's with their Environmental Leadership Institute. It's a 2-year fellowship for environmental justice leaders across California. And so there's 2 convenings every year, and the one that just took place in Half Moon Bay was the second one in the year. And the fellowship is in its current so there's, like, 3 cohorts, and then it's 2 years each. So the convening in October was 1 cohort finishing up their 2nd year, and the 2nd cohort finishing up their 1st year. So there was there was almost a closing circle towards the end of the 2nd day where the 1st cohort got a chance to, like, be together and share, any nuggets they're taking away and how they might wanna show up in the world with what they experience in the fellowship. And I was listening to all the fellows share in circle, and what came from their shares was about the conditions that they felt that the fellowship created for them, where they were able to take off some of the masks, find out how they want to lead. And a few of them said, "Wow, I got to be a human here." And one fellow said, this fellow said, "I've been in many fellowships, and this is the hardest fellowship." Not because it was like hard in content, but it made them be with the difficult emotions of being human and wrestling with having not shown up for many, many, many sessions and being with the guilt of it, and also us holding it alongside them without any sort of there's no quote unquote consequences for it, meaning there's no punishment. We were practicing all the values that the conditions of the fellowship allowed us to practice the values that the fellowship said it was practicing, if that makes sense. And
Yes.
so it's like within that space that folks got to, try on new tools, try on new skills, and return to being human. A lot of them said it was a very humanizing space. And it made me think a lot about the conditions that, as consultants and coaches, we try to cultivate so folks can return to themselves, return to being human. And this is a reflection from me as Helen, like, wow, to be in that space and to witness this is like that in of itself is also to not like overuse the word transformative, but it was because it told me that it's possible to experience a shift internally about like, oh, how I want to continue to show up in the world moving forward, is really incredible. It's like much more than any content you learn. It's much more than like tools and toolboxes. Those are all really important too. But there's something about the felt sense of being able to be who you are in a space with others who are also like, a lot of these leaders are young folks, marginalized, racialized. And this was one of the spaces where they got a chance to be with others who are also learning to unlearn. And I think as a facilitator, to witness this unfolding before my eyes is very moving. Like I wasn't sharing in a circle, but I was like really moved to tears. And it was such a, it was such an affirmative moment of, okay, I'm on the right path to do the things that I want to continue doing, to be in spaces and to cultivate the conditions that folks get to continue to do this. Yeah, that's an example of the we talk so much about, we've talked about coaching and consulting. I want to say one thing I remember from the coach training was that the relationship is reciprocal. So it's hard to like understand reciprocity in a world where it's transactional, right? I receive so much from coaching people, and I know you do too, Christine. And so that's the feeling I have from witnessing and being part of this, facilitating this convening with these fellows. It was really reciprocal.
I
Yeah.
love that. And I so relate. One of the reasons I love to coach over the phone is because I often cry. And I don't want my clients or coach partners to think they have to take care of me.
Yeah.
It's just I'm like literally moved to tears
Yes.
by them, by their aspirations, by
Yes.
like when they
Yes.
have these ahas, I love that. And so sometimes it happens too when I'm in physical space with people and I'm just like, yeah, that's just how I am. But I really get touched by them. And so, yes, I definitely see that reciprocity and feel it, that it changes you as a
Yeah.
coach, as a consult, as a human,
As a
you
human.
know.
Yeah.
So I love that. Well, you do describe yourself as a movement facilitator and liberatory coach. And you also shared you have your website, sacredtuneup.com, and you're on Instagram there. I'd love to hear a little bit about Sacred Tune Up and like just what you're learning too as a coach and consultant, like in the business side of things, or like as
Yes.
you're developing this.
It feels like a little bit like trial and error. And the error part, though, doesn't feel as devastating as like maybe trial and error. Like, oh my gosh. I'll start with Sacred Tune Up. I was I was a sole proprietor. I'm still a sole proprietor, I guess, but recently I like created an LLC just to do all the business legal stuff. But Sacred Tune Up came up because I was thinking about like, oh, if I were to like name my business, what would I do? And I think it was like in several conversations, or I think I was still in my coaching program. And then somebody talked about like, well, what happens after our coaching program's over? What if we need like to gather again and like brush up our skills? Maybe we need tune-ups. And so in my mind, I was like, oh my gosh, coaching feels like tune-ups. Like when we think about a tune-up, coaching and consulting can be like that. Meaning
Mhm.
like when you bring your car to the shop, it's for a tune-up to kind of bring it back to its state of wholeness. So it can continue to like run well and smooth for the next, before the next time you need another tune-up. And so when I think about a sacred tune-up, I'm like, oh, the people I'm working with are inherently sacred. The work we do are inherently sacred. So I think about the sacred beings I get to work with and how my working with them is just like a tune-up. It's not fixing. It is just like, how do we clear away some of the cobwebs? How do we clear away some of the limiting thoughts that get in the way of you being able to show up in the way you want to show up? And so that's how the name came to be. And I'm doing, it's end of year, so I'm also doing a little bit of like intentional business development, thinking about how do I grow, quote unquote, grow my business in a way that is still rooted in liberatory values. So, not to grow it for the sake of growing, but to grow it from a place of being in partnership with others with work I actually want to do and the way I want to do it in practice of the values that I keep saying that I have. So, how do I walk the talk when I am doing the walk itself? So, just thinking about how I want to be in partnership with people. So, something around like having conscious relationship agreements when we decide to partner with people. What is the kind of work I want to do? I don't think I want to do all kinds of work. Like, yes, I need to make money to pay the bills, but I don't think that all money is good money. I'm not saying is inherently bad. I'm saying that I don't necessarily want to take on projects um that are going to move me away from my best self. You know, if I'm having to do much more emotional labor than the project seems at the surface, or if there's if there's like, I want to be at choice with the kind of work I choose. So I think part of this work too to develop my own business is fine tuning who my divine audience is. And I think to your
Mm,
point, Christine, earlier about CHJL, the people who choose to do CHJL, participate in the coaching program, will find themselves there. And I trust similarly, what I'm doing, um, and I'm homing in on what that is. I will also be speaking to people who want to work with me. And I feel really clear and confident that that is the way I want to go about it, as opposed to
mhm,
casting a big, giant net and seeing what I catch and pursuing work that way. And
mhm,
so I did the LLC stuff. I recently purchased some professional liability, general liability, and I'm also doing the things like, "Oh, I'm gonna certify my business." Not because I, like, needed to, but I was, like, poking on some websites, and I'm like, "Oh, I could do that."
mhm,
So, just really being kinda guided by what's happening next and also not moving with any urgency, because there's also a feeling too of moving with emergence, that feels good. And yes, there are things that we just all need to get done, like, we will still have to pay our taxes and et cetera, et cetera. There are deadlines and timelines. But for all the other stuff, I also trust that as I'm learning, it also helps to shape and evolve the business and, like, what I wanna do, and that feels better than, like, having to establish some metrics that are arbitrary,
mhm.
to be honest, about where I should be at and how I should be doing it, and what my return is and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I definitely relate to that sentiment of like letting things evolve or emerge.
Yep.
Um, and just going back to the tune-up piece, I love the connection to wholeness as well. Like the car is not broken when you take it for for a tune-up, right?
No. No.
It's already whole. It's just like,
Yes.
how do we kind of, make this run a little smoother or make sure that it's like can still go on the right track, like,
Yep. Yep.
alignment,
Yes.
all of that good stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. I really like that. And yes, it is like this quality of allowing our businesses to like be something that we learn from and continue
Yes.
to grow, and like you said, not necessarily in the growth for growth, like getting bigger, but like grow, evolve, become
Yep.
what also is like life-giving back to us too, I think, it's like,
Yep.
oh, does this totally drain me? Does
Yep.
this take me away from where I want to be?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's really important. I think it's still so brand new, right? It's still
Right.
so brand new. And so I think what you said about learning from our business as we go is really important. And then also knowing that, like, well, not every day, but you can shift it as you go. You can
Mhm.
shape this into something that is going to be of benefit to all, including yourself. And I think to your point about, oh, I'm not going to take on work that drains me, even if like it pays me like all this money, that it also helps me to challenge and practice around this feeling of scarcity, you
Mhm.
know, because I think that if I were to talk to some other folks in my life, they would say like, "Why would you let that opportunity go away? This is going to pay you X, Y, and Z, or couldn't you just bear with it for whatever and then just get paid?" And sure, however, like, it really affects my spirit. It really affects how I want to show up. It really affects me as like as a leader. Now I'm making decisions not in alignment with my values.
Mhm.
So it allows me to challenge some of these parts of myself that in the past may have gotten in the way or maybe would have led decision making. And now I get to play around a bit with like, well, how does it actually feel to step into a sense of abundance and trust that part of this work, the internal work of figuring out how you want to be and become, is going to inform the kind of work that you do come across. And you'll be much clearer about seeing that too, when the opportunity comes before you. And you also can trust yourself. Like, it's also a lot of self trust that's being built, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Around discernment when you see it. And then if you're not sure, you can ask these powerful questions. What's important about that to me? What's important about that to you? To get underneath to the root of whether or not this is something you want to do and whether or not it's actually something they're asking for. Yeah.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yes. I constantly it's a good problem to have to be able
Yes.
to evaluate
Right.
the work that's coming your way, but I definitely get that of like, "Oh, but this is such a good opportunity," or "There's money here," or whatever, and
Yep.
it's like, "Okay, yes, and how do I want to live my life?" And for me, this phase of life with my daughter too, she's 8 going on 9. This is an important time, and also for my health, if I overwork, it's just no good, and I'm
No.
also at a phase of life where I'm like, "I need to pay more attention to that." So,
Yes. Yes.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. I feel that it is a good problem to have. And, there are days still that I'm like, should I have let that client go?
Mhm.
So just to acknowledge that, yeah, it is not easy, right, to make those
Mhm.
decisions. And I too am at a phase in my life where I am choosing what feels much more easeful, because I do feel like the last 25 years of we're still doing professional work. The last 25 years of working for organizations, I think what has been embedded in my mind is that like work has to be hard, or you
Mhm.
have to like constantly strive. And there is like a work hard to our work. It's just a feeling of, oh, it can't be easeful also.
Right.
So that's what I'm choosing.
Absolutely. Well, I'm curious, is there anything else you wanna share about kind of the coaching or consulting side of things?
It's been such a it's been such a learning experience for me, and I'm like so grateful that like I really do feel like Lori planted some seeds for where I'm at now, and she's still here. And yeah, I'm just really excited about like what's possible with coaching and consulting,
Mhm.
and the ability and the privilege of supporting people in returning to self, finding some freedom from some of the stuckness in life, and then finding also ease in the leadership and the way that they want to lead in their lives.
Absolutely. Well, we've talked a little bit about just the world that we're living in right now, sometimes the incredible heaviness of the social and political context. And I'm just wondering if you can share a little bit about what's helping ground you, something that maybe also what makes you laugh, or like what's making you feel connected to your humanity and the humanity of others.
Yeah, I've been taking a lot more walks in nature. Mm, And not just that, I'm like paying attention to the path I'm walking along, the trees that are changing colors right now, the ones that change color, the birds are in the sky, the different squirrels I see. A friend recently gave me a recommendation. She's like, sometimes when you need to change your perspective, like literally go stand on a hill. And maybe it's
Mm.
the normal Wong teaching that she was sharing with me.
Mm.
And so the other day I took a walk, a usual walk that I take like up a hill close to where I live. So it's like a 30-minute walk to the top. And from up there, I like looked around. She was like, pay attention to how you feel when you're up there. And so in typical fashion, I'm like, what do I feel? What do I feel? What do I feel? But then I paused and then like just reminding myself, I'm like, all right, you tell your coach partners this, so you should try it out too. So I took a pause and I just listened. And then I noticed like a welling up of emotion where I was like, wow, like, because the hill that I'm on top of is like Kennethon Park and it oversees like the La Cienega and Obama intersection. So I saw these cars going home. I heard like this angry driver honking. I saw the train move. I saw people just moving about in the city and I saw like birds fly. And that helped me to have some perspective of like, yeah, just where I was at in that moment and like seeing all the humanity that was on the ground. Folks are just trying to get home. Folks are going through it. And we all know this moment, this year, has been incredibly hard, like for everybody in many ways. So I think that moment of pause has really supported me and really reminding myself that, like, a lot of nature, a lot of trees, I think that's such a huge reminder to me. Nature and trees and land has been here long before I have and has endured and survived. And taking cues from nature and the seasons to remind me and us that we live cyclical lives rather than linear lives and that things do fall away. They get composted, they go quiet, we hibernate, and then we come back to life after storing all that energy over winter. And then in summer is when, the sun is shining and we're out there and the energy is different. So just remembering that we live in these cycles has really grounded me in this moment when there are so many pieces of bad news happening every single time. And I am not trying to be disconnected from the news, but I also know and have to be very deliberate and intentional about not letting that take hold because it's easy. So it is building the ritual and the practice of going outside and also not numbing from what is actually happening in the world. So it's being with what actually feels really hard and also knowing that I can change my location and get perspective and this is just going to be a constant as we live through this moment. I don't think that I'm going to arrive at any place where I'm going to be completely enlightened and like disconnected and not touched by the harms in the world. And I'm not going to be in a place where I get to sit somewhere and feel, that doesn't sound right either. So I think it is just a returning to what keeps us rooted to why we're here while also not rejecting what does feel really hard when we are assaulted by all the pieces of bad news that we see every single day.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And it's such a practice, right?
It's
It's like
such a
a
practice. It's hard.
recalibration
Yeah.
and like, ooh, I need to go and I need some perspective now, or I need a break over here.
Yeah, it is. I think it's just a continued practice. The practice is a practice.
It is indeed. Ugh. Well,
Yeah.
I have so enjoyed this conversation with you as always. And I'm just thrilled other people get to, be part of it and hear your insight and just, yeah, so much inspiration there. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up?
I just want to thank you, Christine, for inviting me for this conversation. While I've been recorded for all kinds of, Zoom meetings and stuff, I definitely am like, whoa, we're being recorded here for this purpose. And that's okay. And I'm just so delighted that we get to be friends, that we know each other. We get to continue to connect and partner in different kinds of ways. And what a special affirmative truth that this is how we met and how we get to continue forward into the future. Yeah. Thank
Mm-hmm.
you, Christine.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so grateful for you.
I'm so grateful for you too.
Wow. Well, if you got as much out of that conversation as I did, and you want to get to know Helen more and learn more about their work, you can check her out at sacredtuneup.com or on Instagram, Sacred Tuneup. And I'm linking that in the show notes as well as links to Cities and People's Advisors, which we talked about, and coaching for healing, justice, and liberation. Thank you so much for listening today. To support the Resourced and Resourceful Leadership podcast, please follow or subscribe to the show, leave a 5-star review, and share the show with a few people who you think would appreciate it. And another podcast that I'm listening to, the host asks, if you liked this episode, take a screenshot, share it on Instagram, maybe in your stories. Just any help getting the word out would be awesome. I noticed on the dashboard for the podcast hosting that I do, I just looked at it and we passed 500 downloads. So that's exciting. Please check out the link to SpeakPipe in the show notes as well. I'd love it if you left me a message. And if you're listening to this live in this holiday season, I'm just sending you lots of extra love and care. I hope this time is exactly what you need it to be. And if it's not, I'm sending you extra, extra love and care. I hope that you can find some peace, some joy, some calm, some relaxation, some fun, whatever it is that you need. Take good care.